You've got the CEO of Google saying, and please allow me to read that again, don't blindly trust what AI tells you. That was the headline.
Yes, why are we trusting kids then to just sit in front of a computer screen
Correct.
and ask different questions to AI, because they're not going to know how to prompt it correctly. They're not going to know the information that they're getting is incorrect.
I think every parent listening today is walking away with a much clearer understanding of what AI can do, what it can't do, and what it should not do. This is the Better Parent Podcast, and today we're discussing artificial intelligence, AI, and education. Specifically, can you as a parent trust AI to handle your child's education? And if so, can it be used as a supportive tool or replace your child's teacher entirely? In this episode, I'm interviewing Nell Marie, the head of curriculum development at WorksheetCloud.com. If your child isn't using WorksheetCloud to study for exams, then you're obviously not stress-free. So visit WorksheetCloud.com now. Nell Marie is a highly experienced teacher coming from the mathematics field and has had her fair share of AI frustration, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. I think this is an important conversation to have because many parents are questioning how much they can truly trust AI when it comes to education. And some parents are simply giving their full trust to AI without knowing anything about it. Nell Marie, thank you for taking the time to walk all the way downstairs from Curriculum HQ to the podcast and recording studio here downstairs. I hope you didn't hit too much traffic.
Thanks, Adrian. The traffic was quite hectic coming down the stairs.
That is such a shame. Speak to HR. So I want to launch in, but before we launch into this important topic of AI and education, I want to ask you, I obviously know we've worked together for a couple of years, yes. But I want to ask you a bit about your education and your experience in schools and teaching in South Africa.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. So yes, after school, I decided to become a teacher. And I went ahead and studied to become a high school teacher, specializing in mathematics and English. I did teach English for about a year and didn't find my love there. And then I moved over to teaching mathematics, which is, I feel, always challenging. There's always something new to learn, so I really enjoyed it. And after that, I moved here and I started working on all the curriculum content. And now I get to see everything from grade 1 to 12, all the different subjects, and really enjoying it.
That's good to hear. And you've been working with WorksheetCloud with us for about 2.5 years now.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So you then have seen a lot of shifts in technology just over the last few short years.
Oh, definitely.
How have AI tools changed the way parents and teachers think about learning and teaching just over the past 12 months?
So just by having some chats with some of my previous colleagues in that is teaching, and even some of the part-time curriculum team that we have, the shift is really there that they are being encouraged to use it as a supportive tool in their classrooms as a teacher. But at the same time, a lot of them are experiencing the same thing that we're questioning now about can they really trust it to be accurate. So they're all finding that it needs to be checked. It needs to be looked at properly to see if it aligns with what we're teaching in our classrooms. And that is the whole question. So we tend to want to say that, AI is the quick fix and AI can be this magic tool that can do everything for us. But the fact remains that we do need to still have that quality control in place, that human element that tells us whether it's possible to align with what we're seeing in textbooks. Is it true to a South African context? And with learners, what they're doing is they're relying on it to just give it the right or wrong answer, but it isn't encouraging any critical thinking. So they just want the tick mark on the paper. They don't want to understand where that tick mark comes from. And AI is that quick fix for them. So it is starting to cause some problems.
Well, talking about, you're going to show us some of those problems that you've come across in your own work and experience with AI. But it reminds me, it was about 2 years ago when I used AI for the very first time, ChatGPT. I was very, you hear how it's going to take over everyone's jobs. It's going to take over the world. None of us are going to have work. And so I thought, well, obviously we're an educational publisher. So is AI, is ChatGPT going to destroy our company in a couple of years' time? And I thought, well, better to know your enemy, right? So I signed up for a ChatGPT account, and I think the very first question I ever asked it was, give me, or first prompt, whatever it's called. I said, give me a 15-question worksheet or exam or test with answers based on grade 4, grade 5, South African history, based on the CAPS curriculum. And I hit enter. And within seconds, I had my 15 questions with the answers. And my instant reaction was, firstly, I thought, this is amazing. And secondly, I thought, like, this could actually take over what we do at this company. Until I started looking at the questions, and question 7 or 8 was, in what year did South Africa win the Rugby World Cup that was played in South Africa? And the answer it gave was 1997. And I remember being 10 years old at the time in 1995 when we saw that final try that pushed the country into elation for winning this massive world event. It was a huge impact on the whole country. It's one of the moments that the country started changing.
It's momentous for us.
So ChatGPT told me it was 1997. It was 1995. And that was my very first experience with ChatGPT, getting an answer that was completely wrong. And 3 hours ago, before we started recording here, I was on the news, I was on BBC's website, and I've got it written down here. The CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, said, the headline of this BBC article was, "Don't blindly trust what AI tells you."
Oh, definitely.
And that made me think of you. That's why I wanted to interview you, because we've at WorksheetCloud, we've been looking at ways to integrate AI, not to replace people, but to improve as a supportive tool, to improve the work that we're doing. And you mentioned to me that you would often find it gives incorrect answers, often, specifically with sort of the more in-depth subject material like mathematics. And I think the other day you mentioned something to me about something in science as well.
Even, yes. I remember the first big shock that I received, and I wish I still had the picture of it. But I asked ChatGPT just to create a basic diagram for me of a 3-prong plug and just the wiring, how it would look.
I remember this.
It was shocking. It gave me a 4-point plug. Then I prompted it and told it, please, just a South African 3-prong plug. Told it where, I can't remember now where neutral is and live is, but I gave it the exact prompt. It responded and said, yes, you are correct. This is not the right diagram. It should look like this. And it gave me a bulleted list of how it should look. I will recreate it for you. It recreated it. And all of a sudden, I had a 4-point prong plug with 2 prongs pointing out the back.
I remember seeing it. Looked like some kind of space-agey thing.
And I continued with this process, prompting it differently in so many different ways. And each time it confirmed to me that I am correct in what I'm prompting and what I'm telling it is the error. But it was unable to generate that picture for me. Now, I mean, we need to make peace. A lot of people are complaining about it's not the best at AI imaging and how to create images. But at the same time, you would expect it to be able to make a basic wiring diagram. And now what if your grade 5 is sitting there wondering how to wire a diagram or how to learn this diagram, and they're prompting AI to show them how to do this. And all of a sudden, it throws it out completely incorrect. That's not a safe solution.
You hit the nail on the head there, and that's really why I wanted to interview you, because we know what a 3-point plug looks like,
Yes.
right? We know what that looks like.
Yes.
Your average child knows what that looks like. Never mind adults.
Yes.
In this country, and by the way, I think we're moving away from 3-point plugs now. By the way, but we know what that looks like.
Yes.
So when you ask AI to generate something like that for you, that you already know what to expect, and it doesn't, this is clearly wrong. I think the crux of the matter is parents are not curriculum experts, and I don't know when it's giving me incorrect information in the curriculum that my child might be learning. Now, this is not a plug for WorksheetCloud.com. Yes, it is. But the point of the matter is that using real teachers, absolutely, they sometimes make a mistake. But those things get picked up by moderators, by editors. But the point is that when you're getting AI to generate all this curriculum or any kind of content, and you've got the CEO of Google saying, and please allow me to read that again, don't blindly trust what AI tells you. That was the
Yes,
headline.
why are we trusting kids then to just sit in front of a computer screen
Correct.
and ask different questions to AI, because they're not going to know how to prompt it correctly. They're not going to know the information that they're getting is incorrect.
Absolutely.
So that is a huge problem. And I'm just thinking of like some of the examples that I actually have. And part of what you mentioned, there is that teacher element or a curriculum expert element that needs to happen in all content. So it can't be you just generating a question and an answer. Someone needs to check that for accuracy. So that's where AI becomes useful for someone like me that does the quality control and makes sure that everything's correct. And one of the things that I can just mention that I'm thinking now of is there was a complex grade 12 question where it was giving me a certain, we call it a surd answer. So it means like with the little root as an answer, but the kids are expected to give it as a decimal answer.
You lost me at surd.
I know, but we'll show a picture to you
I'm not the
afterwards,
maths guy.
just to make
you know
sure.
that. I'm not the maths guy here.
But you know what a decimal number is. So that's why kids are expected to round off to 2 decimal places. And here AI goes and creates this answer for me.
This is something you were asking you to do,
Yes,
right?
I was asking it to do, and it's giving me the correct answer with the root. But the decimal answer is completely incorrect. And I knew this because I already had the correct answer. I was using this as a quality check, as a control to see whether it is accurate and so on. And I just prompted it to say, listen, the third answer is correct, but your decimal is incorrect. And it said, oh, yes, you're right. This is the correct decimal. And it continued to give me the correct decimal. Would you have known that if you didn't do the sum beforehand? Would an average parent know that? I knew it because I work with mathematics a lot. I knew it because I already had the answers to the question. But if you were just blindly trusting it, you would have just assumed it's right.
Here's the thing. What you told me now, right? Full disclosure, couldn't have been more boring to me. But that's my point. I don't do maths. I would have had no idea that if I'm Mikhail, my 21-year-old, as you know, when he's doing matric maths, if he's told me, oh, Dad, don't worry, I don't need a person, I don't need a teacher, I don't need a tool to help me. I've just got ChatGPT. He's running through this, practicing for his matric finals. I would have no idea that the answers that AI is giving him, that ChatGPT is giving him, is incorrect. Would he even know that? I suppose not. Before we go and look at some actual examples that you have come across, and I love some of those examples. I wanted to ask you, you're still friends with a lot of teachers, having been a teacher for many years, and are you getting any feedback? Have you heard any feedback from teachers in high schools? Let's start with high schools about the use of AI and what effect it's having on the learners.
Yes. So I think we've always had a problem. While I've been teaching, I don't know how far back this stretches, but kids are sitting in a classroom and they're just wanting the correct answer. They're not interested in getting, how do I get the correct answer? And AI is
They just want to get the work done.
They just want to get it done. They just want the tick on the paper.
Which isn't the purpose of learning.
No, and I'm thinking of mathematics. They often ask me, but ma'am, why do we need to study mathematics? And it's actually about the critical thinking that it develops. It's not about just getting the right answer to the maths equation. And I remember a lot of grade 8s when they just start being really pushed to show all their working while getting to the answer. How they were like, but ma'am, my answer is correct. I typed it into the calculator. And then I was like, but how did you get to the answer? Can you explain to me how you got to the answer? Because I'm thinking just of something simple as common fractions. In grade 8, it's quite simple. They can just type it into the calculator, get the correct answer. But by the time they get to grade 10, 11, and 12, they have to apply algebra in there as well. And then they don't have an idea of what concepts need to be applied to get that answer accurately. Now we're sitting with AI, which is a quick fix. You can even put in the algebra, but you still don't understand the methodology about how to get to the answer. So all the skills that's important for mathematics and that it is developing is not taking place if you are seeing your learners use AI the whole time just to get the assignment done.
There's almost no point to assignments anymore.
No, because
AI can just write it for you in seconds.
They're giving them a homework assignment. They're giving them an exercise to do. Even a literature exercise, for example. If they are doing a literature exercise in Afrikaans, for example, and the book is something well known and there's a lot of material online available already, and they just go and type in that specific question, it will probably give them a reasonably good answer. But have they actually evaluated the story by themselves? Have they actually really gotten to know the characters? Can they do in grade 10, 11, and 12 where they have to start analyzing characters a lot more? That's not going to take place because they just relied on, I need to get the right answer so that I can move on forward.
Yeah, like so verbatim, this is what the computer told me, and therefore it must be correct.
Yes, and now the problem that we're pointing out is it isn't always correct because I mentioned now an example of mathematics, but I found it in language as well. So ChatGPT is a language model. So this I found out after doing a bit of research. So yes, it's not the best tool for mathematics because it's a language model.
So are you saying there are better tools for maths?
There is better tools for math.
But I loved what you said there. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I'm an average parent.
I had to do research, and it's my job to know, like, where is the best mathematics material, where is the best curriculum material. And I eventually had to research to find out more what tools are the best, how can I best use things to improve our content. And this is how I came to the answer. But
and you're paid to do it.
Yes.
This is part of your day-to-day job. Imagine you're coming home after a long day's work, and the kids are screaming, or if they're in high school, they're just quiet and not saying anything at all. How was your day? Fine.
If you're that lucky.
What questions did you ask today? Nothing. I think there's so many people that could just say to themselves, like, I'm just gonna take a leap of faith and hope that my son or daughter using AI for their education, where it could be studying, revision assignments. I'm just hoping it's correct, because I don't have the time to spend. How roughly how long did it take you to find the correct tools you need to use? Are we talking hours?
It's hours. It's sometimes days.
Yes.
Because there's so many different tools, and the more AI is developing, the more tools are available. And you first have to test and see what is working better, what is not working better, and get all the relevant material to make sure that you're now the other problem we have Google telling you the AI overview.
Yes.
So if you're Googling to say, what is the best AI tool for maths? It's giving you an AI overview of that. Are you trusting that AI overview, or are you actually looking for articles like you mentioned now with the BBC article and actual real people saying things about AI before you make a decision on these types of things?
I think, that's the average parent doesn't have time for that.
No, there's no time for that.
And you'll assume that ChatGPT, it looks good, so the mathematics must be correct, but there's actually might be other tools that might be genuinely useful. But how does the average parent know? And you mentioned about Googling, that we actually had this discussion upstairs this morning in the office, where I was relaying a story when in 1997, not the World Cup year, but 1997, I was in grade 6. And my father started an educational software company. So I had I was probably the only child I knew who had a computer in his, not just a computer in the house. Most families, if you had a computer, the computer was in the study or the dining room, whatever. It was the family computer. I had my own computer. I was the only child in my grade that year that submitted a natural sciences project. I forget what it was, but I remember there's a beautiful picture of a angelfish that I put on this front cover. It was printed and bound like a book. Everyone else's project, and very pretty, like drawn. The girls had drawn pretty pictures with colors. The boys didn't care, like staple. I was the only kid. I was the only child who submitted this thing that looked like a book. It was cool then. So I had an advantage because I had a computer, right? But I had to do the work. Then Google came, now over the last few years, people would just say, oh, do you know what the weather's going to be today? Google it. Do you know how much a new Nissan costs? Google it. So we would Google, and there was no AI overview. So you'd have to go find the website,
extract information,
read the information. So even if this is doing research for an assignment at school, right? We would still need to actually go and put some effort in, all right? Even if you were copying and pasting directly, which obviously is, if you find that out, your teacher would fail you. But even if you were doing that directly, you'd have to do some significant editing and positioning and thinking to get this, like a logical essay, for example. Now the issue is that you can type 1 or 2 sentences and get everything done for you. And I think that's probably the concern with teachers. And as a parent, I am concerned about that, because I try and look at myself and think, would I have been that 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy, largely uninterested in school? Would I have been that person just to hit, hey, ChatGPT, write my essay for me, boom, done, print? Would I have been like that? And I hope not, because I don't know if I would have got in life where I have without having to be forced to think. But I think that's really the issue with AI in education that parents need to be aware of. We hear this. The teachers are famous for saying, like, oh, why do we have to learn this? No, but school's not always necessarily about the content itself. It's about the
skills behind it.
And it's it sounds like such a cliche. Okay, I think for the first time in history, thanks to AI, the world is going to see how true that is. Because thanks to AI, we're not going to need to learn the skills. It's going to do it for us. I want to read some stats that the team actually found for me. Texas A&M University commerce professor, this is like professor. Like if you think you're intelligent, I'm assuming this person really is intelligent. Failed half his class after using OpenAI's ChatGPT to check their final essays. He misused ChatGPT by asking it if it had written each student's paper, not realizing that ChatGPT cannot actually identify text it writes. The chatbot falsely claimed it wrote their papers, leading the professor to accuse many students of cheating. The university even put their diplomas on hold temporarily. In the end, no students were failed once the issue came to light. That's quite scary. That's at a university. Here's another one, which I've heard of a couple of. Don't quote me, but I think even a South African case of this. But here in New York, 2 lawyers faced sanctions after their legal brief cited 6 court cases that never existed. All were fabricated by ChatGPT. And again, we've been talking about some, like you say math, science. I say I don't have any clue what you're talking about. But the point is, that's the point. Parents, we're busy. We don't have time. We need to know that the tools that our children are using, we can trust. We need to know that the tools are not going to be harmful to our children. And that's why we're having this conversation today. So let's go and take a look at those examples for those people who understand mathematics. If you don't understand maths, it's fine. I don't either. But just bear with us while we look through these examples so that Nelmarie can show us on her screen, run through some of those equations that ChatGPT gave wrong answers for.
So as you can see here on the first slide, I asked it for solutions to x, and it gave me the decimal answers. Then after checking it manually from my side on a calculator, I saw that it made an error, and then asked it to check it again just to confirm whether I made an error or it made an error. After running the calculation again, it confirmed that I was correct and gave me the correct decimal approximations like I found it on my calculator as well. In the second example, I will show you 3 screenshots. On the first, what basically happened, I'm not going to go into the technicality of this. In the first one, it confirmed an equation to me, which upon I disagreed with it, and I asked it to check an answer for me that I calculated, not realizing I made an actual mistake with one of the values that I asked it to recalculate. It recalculated it, confirming my now incorrect answer, which at that point I didn't know was incorrect. But then upon checking again between its answer and my answer, I realized my sign error in the one that I asked it to check. And then in the third screenshot, you can see it finally confirms my definitely correct answer. But in all this time, if I was not an experienced person working with the mathematics, how was I supposed to know that there was an error if it keeps confirming the actual error that I made? In the last example that I have, I tried not to use something with mathematics, and I found a question that I previously asked it on the periodic table. Me not being a science expert at all, my skill is definitely at the maths, but I ran the question through and it gave me the answer as vanadium. However, upon checking the memorandum that I was sitting with, the memorandum said phosphorus. So I asked it just to say whether it's 100% sure, because I didn't know, is it correct or is the memorandum that I'm sitting with correct? And then it ran it through again and actually confirmed to me that phosphorus is the correct answer. This leaving me very confused, because now I don't know whether I should rely on the memorandum or the AI answer, and actually had to ask a real human being whether the phosphorus is correct or the vanadium, and the person confirmed to me that phosphorus is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to move to some questions here. Then we should sort of wrap it up, because obviously we've ripped AI a new one, and I want to ask you, what are the dangers of children becoming too dependent on AI? What do you think are some of the biggest dangers of that?
No problem-solving skills, no interpersonal skills. There is just none of that developing, because they're not having to face humans. They're not having to think further on anything. They're just getting a quick fix answer. They're just getting whatever they want as what they see as correct in a quick manner. It's no searching for the correct answer. It's no struggling with a problem. If I think how important it is for the understanding of maths, for a child to sit and actually get it wrong, and then to point out to them that in that step is where your error was, and then have them go back to reevaluate that, how important that is in building their confidence, first of all, with the study material, and then finally seeing that victory when they're achieving it, and then realizing, but now they understand where it comes from. You're taking that element away completely, because they're just getting the correct answer. They didn't have to struggle to get the correct answer.
Yeah.
So it's taking all of that away. So isn't it also maybe influencing their confidence in how confident they are in how they would respond to something? Because I don't have ChatGPT close by to give me the correct answer. Are they trusting themselves to know that I know what's going on, I can answer this effectively? We were also talking this morning in the office about how it's shifting to possibly doing oral exams again, so that there's not that element of writing.
That's right.
So would your child be comfortable orally explaining something that they have always relied on AI just to type into and just get the correct answer?
Yeah, and I think that's where now the children who are gifted verbally with the gift of the gab and confident can present themselves well. Children who are well spoken, children who are confident and could stand up in front of examiners and give this beautiful answer can do well. What about your child who was really good at this clever child, intelligent child, not great face to face, not great with verbally, but could have aced an exam or aced an assignment? Now those children are going to get disadvantaged. They're going to become disadvantaged because schools, universities, as we've seen, they might shift away from the traditional exams to oral only. So, of course, those children will now benefit, those who can give these beautiful, eloquent answers. But the children who cannot do that will now be disadvantaged because of that. So there are a lot of consequences that people haven't even really thought about.
Yes, and it raises the question that are the kids that are not good and well-spoken, or not good with words and not well-spoken, won't they be okay if they actually were confident in the material that they're studying? Yes, they might not be able to use the exact right words and have the presence, but if they are 100% comfortable with the answer that they are giving to something, that element of confidence comes from knowing that you understand it, you have studied it. I mean, I'm thinking like one of the more quiet learners in my class, for example, when I used to teach, they would come up to me and say, but ma'am, can you please check this answer again? Because I'm 100% sure that my answer is correct. They never speak in class, they never raise their hand, but they were confident enough in their ability in understanding it that they were able to come to me and say, ma'am, can you please check my method here again? And I was able to check through it and, I missed this, so let's give them the mark because their reasoning was correct. So, yes, I hear what you're saying about the advantage of being well-spoken, but even if we can just get our kids to a point where they're confident enough with what they are studying, they will still be able to give correct answers. They will still be able to pass that exam because it is about the confidence that they have in what they're studying.
Yeah, you make a good point there as well. Absolutely. Where could AI be useful to parents?
I think AI is truly useful if you can start incorporating it in ways to help you find certain tools, for example. So if you were to ask it, what is a possibility in finding my child better help, for example, in this specific subject? Can you pull up articles for me? So still encourage your child. Let's say they are having to write a speech and you don't have time to search the whole internet for relevant articles. Go into ChatGPT, ask it, can you please look for articles that has to do with the following topic? Pull up those articles, print those articles for your child and say, here's all the material you need. There's some references for you. Go and write your speech. That's going to develop more skills, and it saved you time, but it's still not relying on AI to create the content. It's just an aid to help you help your child in a better way.
I love that example, very practical example. So basically using it as a research assistant to get the research faster,
Yes.
to get the information faster, but not to do the thinking for you.
No, there is definitely a use for AI.
We use it
As
often in the office.
As a supportive tool. It's great as a supportive tool. It's great as a sidekick. But as for a parent that can use it in certain ways to guide their child. It's not a fix it all, give all the answers. I'm going to generate everything that my child needs. I'm going to get all the summaries that they need. That is not what is the best way to use AI. But look for the best place where we could find this. And yes, then it can definitely be useful.
Fantastic. And how can parents help their children learn how to use AI responsibly and safely?
I think we're back to the thing about at the point where your child is comfortable asking the why questions. So if your child is at a point where they're critically thinking about how they're responding to certain things or how they're finding solutions to questions, then they can be maybe encouraged to use AI a bit more. But before they reach the point where you think they can independently sit in front of a computer screen.
So it's age dependent?
Age dependent,
as a
first
starting
of all.
point.
Yes, you can't let your grade 4 child sit in front of the computer because they won't necessarily have the critical thinking yet to know that I can't trust everything that AI is giving to me. So the age definitely needs to take place, but certain skills need to be developed as well. So is your child at a point where they would sit in a classroom and actually evaluate what they're being taught? Because if they're not at that point yet, then they also can't be trusted to sit in front of a computer using AI and being able to evaluate what they're getting from AI is accurate or not. So if they're just looking to use AI as a quick fix to doing an assignment or studying for a test by just generating the correct answers, it's not the correct time for them to be using AI. They should start using AI when they want to use it as a sidekick as well.
Okay.
As
supportive tool,
Yes.
not a replacement to your teacher,
No.
not a replacement to your parents, and not a replacement to your own thinking. It reminds me of there's a passage in the Bible, and I don't know the exact book or verse, but it's basically along the lines of don't test what is being taught to you. Don't just blindly follow it. Refer back to scripture. Test what if there's a minister preaching to you in a church. Refer back to scripture, and perhaps we can put the actual verse down on the screen. But it's basically, in summary, don't believe everything you hear. Refer back to scripture to test to see if that is correct.
Yes.
And that same principle applies to AI. Don't believe everything it tells you. Go back and test. And so I'm actually going to change this. So listen very carefully here. So I'm now quoting the CEO of WorksheetCloud.com. Don't blindly trust what AI tells you. Adrian Marnewick, CEO of WorksheetCloud.com. Google CEO Sundar Pichai. That's the Office reference. Okay, so there are definite use cases. We use it often to as a supportive tool to make our lives easier. And I think the key takeaway here for me, if every parent listening to this took just one action this week to future-proof their child's learning in an AI world, what's the one thing you believe would make the biggest difference?
I think the biggest difference will be if parents would first focus on having their kids be taught by a teacher and learning from material that is human written.
Tried, tested.
Yes.
Yes.
Before they go and use AI at all, because I've taught long enough to know how kids just want the quick fix. And I'm sure parents are experiencing the exact same thing. They want an immediate answer. They want the easiest way out. So before that is in place, where your child is not looking for that quick fix, where your child is not just looking for the easy way out, I don't think AI should be forming part of how they are studying. It can be a supportive tool for the parent in getting the correct information, but they shouldn't be left independently to use AI to help with homework. There should definitely still be a human element, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a parent sitting with a textbook next to them, whether it's WorksheetCloud, where they know they're getting the correct content. There needs to be that element. It can't be AI. It can't be AI.
All right. Well, thank you. Namri, that was gold. I'm sure we'll have you on the podcast again. I think every parent listening today is walking away with a much clearer understanding of what AI can do, what it can't do, and what it should not do.
I truly hope so.
Yes. And I think most importantly, actually, how to support their child through this shift in the world and this change that is coming, whether we like it or not, but we don't need to fear it. Parents, here's the big takeaway. AI is a tool, not a teacher, not a parent, and definitely not a replacement for the relationship you have with your child. It can help, it can accelerate learning, but it still needs you guiding the process. And if you want to give your child the best possible support in a safe, structured, reliable way, that's exactly why WorksheetCloud exists. We use AI where it makes sense and real South African teachers where it matters most. If your child isn't using WorksheetCloud yet, head to WorksheetCloud.com and try it out. It might just make your next exam season the calmest one yet. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with another parent who's navigating the AI jungle right next to you. This is Adrian from the Better Parent podcast, where we believe there is no such thing as perfect parents, only normal parents who are trying to be better.